I'm Lauren Mayk. Welcome to Battleground Politics. The federal government is now shut down after Congress failed to reach a deal on a new spending plan. I spoke with one member of the Senate and one member of the House, one Democrat, one Republican, both from our area. I'm joined now by New Jersey Senator Andy Kim, a Democrat. Thanks for taking the time to speak with us, Senator, during this shutdown.
Thanks for having me on.
So let's start with the big question for folks. What's it going to take for this shutdown to end?
Well, what it's going to take is actually respond to the concerns of the American people right now. You know, I did after the vote in the Senate yesterday, I held a town hall. It had 6,000 people across New Jersey dial in at the last minute. And I just heard over and over and over again how they feel like the government's not responding to their needs and their concerns, especially when it comes to health care. Starting today and over the next few days, millions of Americans are going to get notified that their health care costs are going to double. That 4.5 million Americans are expected to lose their health care. Over 20 million will see costs skyrocket. And even those with private insurance are going to see rises. We need to do something about this. And we need to do it fast because open enrollment begins in 1 month. So, we need to be able to address these needs and have a budget that actually reflects what the people need, not a hyper-partisan agenda, which is what we've been seeing so far.
Regarding that, those healthcare issues and those subsidies, those ACA subsidies that you are talking about and the costs that people will see, there is a little time. I know that open enrollment starts soon, but there is a little time before those would go into effect. So why not keep the government open and then keep talking about that and do it separately so that you don't have a shutdown or you have a short one?
Well, right now, families are going to have to decide. So they are making up their minds this month. So I think we need to respond. I think it's, the idea that my Republicans are saying that we can get to this in December, that's absolutely not the case. This is not something that can be dealt with then. A lot of families are already making their decisions and a lot of them will lose their care in the interim. So I hope we can respond with the urgency that is needed given the crisis and the magnitude of what we're facing. And look, what we also see is that this is a president that doesn't keep his word. We see that over and over again. We see that with the fact that he pushed forward on a rescissions effort, which means that they're literally not spending money that Congress has authorized and put into law. That goes against the Constitution. And we see that over and over again. And we see Speaker Johnson and Leader Thune and the Republicans here in Congress just enabling this lawlessness and the president's actions that are unconstitutional. I swore an oath to protect and defend the Constitution. I'm going to follow through on that.
Tell me what the conversations are now. Are there negotiations going on? Are there talks that you think could be fruitful?
I was just on the floor of the Senate. And we had a bipartisan gathering and we talked through and we actually had a good conversation talking through just some of the different positions that people are on. It's just the beginning of ongoing discussions. So that's promising. But I will say I have nobody to talk to on the other side of the Capitol. Speaker Johnson has done one of the most absolutely reckless things that I've ever seen, which is he just gave Republicans in Congress a free vacation. He told them not to show up to work. So they're not even in the building, let alone in the room negotiating with us. The fact that we have military troops right now and we have public servants, civil servants that are working today without getting a paycheck. Meanwhile, members of Congress and the President of the United States are continuing to get a paycheck, and the Republicans from the House are just not even doing their jobs. I find that to be an abdication of leadership and a dereliction of duty, and they got to get themselves back here immediately so we can have someone to actually negotiate with.
Not all of your colleagues feel exactly the same way. Senator Fetterman from Pennsylvania voted for both bills, saying he wanted to keep the government open. Why is his approach wrong?
Well, look, in terms of how I see this, again, the Republicans are not negotiating in good faith. And Speaker Johnson claims to be doing so, but as I said, when he's not even having the House of Representatives show up to do their job while families are struggling, that's not good faith. when we are trying to negotiate on a budget. Meanwhile, Speaker Johnson refused to take up and stand up against this rescissions package by the president that gutted $5 billion that Congress had already agreed to and appropriated. In the world that I grew up in my family, a deal is a deal. When you have a deal, when you have a handshake, you have an agreement, you got to abide by that. Donald Trump refuses to do that. He has given us no assurances that any CR, continuing resolution, funding supplemental, or an actual budget is something that he feels he needs to agree to. So that's why I think that we see the lawlessness of this administration. I hear the president say yesterday that, he wants to continue to deploy troops around our country and, in fact, wants our cities to be a training ground for the military. Like people are furious right now. They are absolutely besides themselves with just how reckless this president has been.
So is part of this just Democrats taking a stand against an administration and how it's going about things?
Well, we are taking a stand, but we're taking a stand with our people, our constituents, those that are really struggling. And I think that that's the difference, is we're trying to solve a problem that millions of Americans are facing, and it's a life or death in terms of their ability to get health care. Meanwhile, the Republicans are just playing a political game. They're just in it to try to see whether or not, they can have more accumulation of power and dominance. This is an executive branch that's basically trying to make subservient the other two branches of government. And Speaker Johnson and Leader Thune basically becoming cabinet officials in Trump's administration. That's what's happening. But we actually want to try to solve these problems and help people in need. And we're hearing from millions of them around the country about this healthcare crisis that we're in, and we want to solve it. Meanwhile, Donald Trump's trying to take actions, threatening and saying he's going to cut funding to transportation and infrastructure in New Jersey and New York with the Gateway Tunnel. I mean, that's absolutely ridiculous. It's very clearly illegal and something we're going to stand against, but also shows the American people that this is just a game to him. He doesn't care about commuters in New Jersey and whether or not they can get to work on time, or get back to their families after work on time. He's more interested in just playing political games, and I find that to be disgusting.
I know that you have asked for your paycheck to be withheld during the shutdown. First of all, is that something that is logistically possible?
Yes.
That's actually happening?
Yes.
Okay. Is that something that you are just doing on your own, or is this something that you have discussed with other Democrats that you're doing together?
Well, I'm doing it on my own, and honestly, I've tried to push it before. I tried to push legislation that would revoke pay for members of Congress and the president. I mean, the fact that the president of the United States and members of Congress get paid, again, while our troops and our civil servants are not, and they're still showing up to work. And we see House Republicans not even showing up to do their job, and they're still getting paid today. I find that to be absurd. It's honestly offensive that is happening. And I think the vast majority of Americans can agree with me. I think that's probably a uniting factor. I think all 340 million Americans can agree that Congress and the president should not get paid during a shutdown. Maybe we can unite around that. So I'm going to stand with our civil servants, with our troops. I used to work in government at the federal level as a civil servant. I worked through 2 shutdowns, didn't get paid. I know what that's like, and I want to let them know that I understand the challenges that they're facing. Meanwhile, the rest of Congress, I feel like, the American people feel like they're just playing with other people's chips and not actually experiencing the pain themselves.
How long do you think this is going to last?
I have no idea. I hope we can end it quickly. I hope we can get Americans the care that they need. And I hope we can have the functioning democracy that our Constitution has afforded us. And that Constitution is what I swore an oath to protect. And that is what I'll do.
Before I let you go, I just wanted to dig down on one more thing. You said you had been talking with some colleagues on the Senate floor and kind of going over sort of where you stand. Where do you think the possibilities are, and where are the difficulties that you need to get over?
Yeah, well, first and foremost, it's good that we're having these discussions. That's what the American people want us to do, to be the adults in the room and talk to one another. And yes, when I'm having some of these conversations, some of my colleagues, including on the Republican side, there's openness. There's a real desire to try to find a solution. So that makes me heartened, at least about on the Senate side. But like I said, I have no one to talk to on the other side of the Capitol. And I think it's completely ridiculous. And I hope everyone can agree across the political spectrum that when we're in a shutdown, lawmakers need to get their act together, show up to work, and actually talk to one another. And I hope Speaker Johnson hears that message loud and clear, because what we're seeing right now is an absolute failure of leadership on his part.
Senator Andy Kim from New Jersey, appreciate your time during this shutdown. Good to talk to you.
Thank you.
I'm joined now by Pennsylvania Congressman Ryan Mackenzie, a Republican. Congressman, thanks for taking time to speak with us on a busy day during this shutdown.
Absolutely. Well, thanks for having me on a very serious topic that we're going to be discussing.
Well, tell me where things stand right now. Are there discussions on the House side about a new bill that could pass the Senate and end this shutdown?
Well, we 2 weeks ago in the House actually passed legislation that would have been a clean continuing resolution. And what that means is that we would just maintain the existing funding. There wouldn't be any increases or decreases, no major policy changes. And this is something that is actually a carryover from back in March when we last did a continuing resolution. And then it actually started back in the last year of the Biden administration. It had strong bipartisan support in both of those instances. It should have it now, but at the same time, Democrats in the Senate, led by Chuck Schumer, want to try to shut down the government and use it as leverage for something else, which is unclearly defined at this point. And that is really detrimental to the American people, especially people that work in government or rely on any type of benefits or services from the federal government. So we are actually advocating that we just have the Senate pass the bill that we already passed in the House. Last night when it came up in the U.S. Senate, it did get a number of Democratic votes, but not enough. It needs to actually get 60 votes in the Senate. So beyond the Republican majority, you need at least 7 votes of Democrats, and it only got 3 last night. So we're not there yet, but hopefully some more Democrats will come around, just like they did back in March when over 7 Democrats ended up voting for it to get it through in March and continue funding the government. We're hoping they'll do that again.
Well, Democrats have raised some concerns about ACA or Obamacare subsidies expiring and the cost going up for people. What do you say to people who are going to see these higher bills?
Yeah, affordable health care is a very real priority and something that we should be discussing. The timeline for that extension is at the end of this year. And so I've already been on the record saying that that's something that we would like to discuss. And we should look at that program, figure out how we can maintain affordability for working families and seniors and those that want to utilize the program, but at the same time, not be providing those benefits to really high income individuals, which right now there's no income cap. So they can be utilized by individuals that probably should not be getting subsidized health care. So we would like to see reforms to that program. But again, that's an end of the year policy discussion. That was something that already was in the queue. Republicans and Democrats alike, myself included, have said that we would like to see some kind of extension with reforms to that program. But now Democrats are trying to include that here in an effort to just continue to fund the government, which that funding is for our military, for our border patrol, even programs like WIC, Women, Infant, and Children's food programs. So if the Democrats want to try to make a new policy debate as a part of this discussion, they're really harming a lot of individuals across the country with no clearly defined path or compromise forward. So it's a really bad decision on the Democrats' part, not something that I think we should be supportive of at all.
I talked to one of your Democratic colleagues in the Senate about this, and I asked about why not just do that later. And they did express some concern about, taking the president's word for it later. Do you think Democrats can trust that it would really happen later and that there would be changes in time for those costs not to go up for everyone?
Well, what we passed was a clean continuing resolution for 7 weeks. So this is not even a long-term funding. This is a 7-week continuing resolution, that would give us the time to have a discussion and a debate, conversation on how we want to move forward on these tax credits. And I think that's an appropriate period of time. If they don't like it or perceive that we're making progress in that discussion by the end of November, they would have that opportunity closer to this deadline for the Affordable Care Act tax credits to make a decision then. But to hold it up at this point when there is no agreement, no discussion, they threw this in there at the 11th hour. Again, it's really bad governing. And again, we have a responsibility to fund the government for all those that rely on either those paychecks or benefits. And again, I voted to maintain an open government. And I would hope, again, Senate Democrats will join us in that fight, just like they did back in March.
While the government is shut down, the president has talked about the possibility of layoffs of federal workers, making cuts to the workforce. Do you think that that is a good idea during the shutdown, laying off federal workers?
Yeah, it's an unfortunate byproduct of a government shutdown. And again, I voted because when the funding stops, if that is not continued, then agencies do have to make decisions about who's going to be furloughed or who may end up being laid off because they
those are furloughs, though. Furloughs are different than a layoff because in previous shutdowns, the workers, they get their money afterwards, they get their paychecks afterwards. It can be tough during it, but they do get their paychecks. He's talking about actually making cuts and having layoffs.
Yeah, and so again, that's a decision that's on part of the administration. I made that distinction in my comments there about furloughs or potential layoffs. And that's a decision that the administration is going to be making. And so, again, we shouldn't be in this position. We should be funding the government. That's what I voted for. But once funding stops, you have to figure out how to make your budget work and get things balanced and in a position where you can continue operations of the government when you reopen. But with a lack of clarity because government funding has stopped, the administration is going to have to make some choices about their path forward when it comes to staffing of different agencies.
Is it something that you would urge the administration not to do permanent layoffs, or is that something where you just trust them to make the right decision?
Well, every instance is case by case. And so without having the full clarity, like they have a whole team that is analyzing this budget, we would hope that there are not going to be those kind of layoffs. We would hope that we can continue the operations as we have with the continuing resolution from back in March. Again, we shouldn't be in this position. We don't want to see it. We don't want to see the government shut down. We don't want to see people laid off unnecessarily. But ultimately, again, the administration is going to start making those decisions when funding runs out.
We talked about whether there are discussions in the House to come up with a new bill. And I know that you'd like the Senate to take up this one, but you also know how this works. And we've seen this even in the Pennsylvania House, and you served in the legislature in Harrisburg. So you've, I'm sure, been watching what's happening there. If one chamber passes something the other one is not going to pass, then nothing gets done. So it's failed in the Senate now. So what do you do now in the House?
Yeah, well, the Senate is going to have another opportunity today to vote on this again, because I think people are starting to see and realize already, just one day into a shutdown, what the ramifications and impact could be for people all across this country. We saw 7 Democrats vote for the continuing resolution back in March. Last night it was 3, but at the start of this, going into it, we only thought there was going to be 1 Democrat. Only Senator John Fetterman from here in Pennsylvania had said that he was going to continue to fund the government. Ultimately, there were 3 on the vote, and we know that there were 7 that continued and voted for this same legislation, the same funding plan back in March. So hopefully they're going to come to their senses and cast aside the advice of Chuck Schumer and do the right thing, vote for the American people, keep the government open. So they're going to have that opportunity again today. And probably the Senate is going to even have a vote again either later this week or early next week to make sure that, again, people want to stay that course if that's what they choose to do. But it's very detrimental, very harmful to a lot of people across this country to shut down the government and not the right path forward.
The House is not in session right now. Do you think it should be?
Well, today is a Jewish holiday, and so we were planned to be out of session both today and tomorrow. We will be back, as of now, plan to be back on Monday. And again, we're going to be casting votes. If it's not the clean CR that we've been advocating for, we're going to try some different paths forward. And so I know that we are in the process of drafting those new proposals so that they'll be ready and queued up for Monday.
What will they include?
Yeah, so one approach that is being discussed is to start continuing funding for certain critical services, whether that's the military, Border Patrol, and offering those up as standalone items and saying, okay, Democrats in the Senate and the House, you have all voted to shut down the government and every single component of the government. Do you advocate for at least paying our military? Because the next pay period is coming up for the military very soon. So many people across this country, including our service members, are living paycheck to paycheck. Is that what they voted for? Is that really where they want to stand? Is not paying our military and our service members? Hopefully, they're going to have the opportunity to go on record on that single standalone item. And we'll continue to put up these votes to make sure that they and the American people see where everybody stands on these critical issues of funding the government.
All right, Congressman Mackenzie, thank you so much for your time. Appreciate it. We'll stay in touch.
Thank you.
That does it for this episode of Battleground Politics. You can see more of my interviews with lawmakers, candidates, political insiders, and voters right now on NBC10.com, the NBC 10 app, our NBC Philadelphia YouTube page, or you can listen while on the go. Subscribe wherever you get your podcasts.